YouTube, it's Louise and this is the channel, The Big Head Bookworm. Lovely to see you. Hope you're well. Hope you're having a good day. Now, in a break from usual programming, this is not going to be about books. No, this is going to be about yarn. So this is a video that I am trying out. I don't know how it's going to go. I've already had to film the intro so many times because if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that I am the Big Head Bookworm, and that's how I start always my videos. I say, hello, it's Louise, the Big Head Bookworm, love to see you over. And it's been really difficult to try and change the way I was saying, because although I am the Big Head Bookworm, this is not going to be about books. This is going to be about yarn. So this is a knitting and crochet podcast in YouTube tradition of knitting and crochet podcasts. And I don't know how it's going to go because I haven't done one of these before. So if I do it badly, please forgive me. And if it's well received, then I can have another go. And over time, I shall get more polished, especially at this intro. So if you've come from the knitting and crochet community and you haven't watched any of my videos before, hello, lovely to see you. Hope you're having a good day and lovely to meet you. I hope we carry on chatting and we become friends. If you are somebody that's watched my booktube channel for a while and you are one of my bookish chums, then hello, it's lovely to see you again and lots of love to you. So, yarn and all things yarn. The idea of this podcast came about because on a bookish vlog, which I was doing about our holiday down in Cornwall in the UK, I mentioned that I had taken holiday knitting along with me, and I showed the pattern and I showed what I was doing, and in my wrap up I actually showed how far I'd got, and somebody said, have you had a look at the knitting podcasts that are on YouTube? Why don't you give it a go? And then quite a few other people said, yes, why don't you give it a go? So I've been watching them for the last couple of months. And oh my gosh, yes, that is a rabbit hole that I am quite happily, it's not a rabbit hole, it's a rabbit warren. And I am just going round all the different areas and falling in love with yarn folk across the world. And that's the most amazing thing to me. Like BookTube and books, yarn is something that seems to pull people together, knit them together as you would, across the world. And it just seems amazing to me that you get conversations going across the world about people's passions for all things knitting or crochet or yarn in general. And it seems to follow a lot of the ideas of that book. So you talk about what you're doing and what you've done and your experiences and what's gone well, i.e. the books that you've loved or the yarn you've loved or the pattern you've loved. And then books that you haven't loved, i.e. it's a bit scratchy, the yarn's a bit scratchy, or it splits on the needles or whatever. So it seems to be so compatible. And I just thought, I'm going to have to give this a go. But forgive me if I'm a bit scratchy. We will get there. I promise you, we will get there. I'll become more soft and silky, as you will. Let's hope so. Hey, so let's give it a go. So my name's Louise, and I live in a very small village just outside the city of Cambridge in the east of England, in the UK. I live with the husband and our 9-year-old son, Benedict, who is frankly the best thing in the world. He is our bestest boy and our bestest love in the entire world. And he quite often features in my vlogs. So I'm sure at some point he will pop his head in. He's not actually in today. It's half term and he's off playing at a friend's. But normally he does end up putting his head around the corner because he loves doing this kind of stuff. He's a YouTube boy. He loves his YouTube. We also have 3 cats. We have 2 cats and a kitten. The kitten is bouncing around. He's actually in one of the bedrooms. That's why I've got the door open. I could just close the door, but he keeps running in and out. We lost one of our cats in the summer. We lost our big, beautiful, just most gorgeous boy. He was only 3 and he got knocked over. And one of our cats, I mean, we were utterly devastated. One of our cats went into a horrible grief about it. She sat in the sink for 3 days. She absolutely refused to get out of the sink. She was going to sit in the sink. She was so devastated. And even months afterwards, she was still not back to herself. And the vet actually said you could think about actually getting her a friend. And then we talked about it, and the husband then would send me pictures of kittens. So he was suffering too. I've got the window here. The sun is going down at the moment, so it might just change, and we'll just have to work with this. I'm going to learn where's the right place and where's not the right place, won't I? So if I'm a bit glary, then that's the case. I've also got some water because my throat's hurt. So, do you want to get yourself a nice drink, a nice hot drink perhaps? A cool drink, that's what I'm having at the moment. I'll just pause and wait for you to come back, and then we'll carry on. So I'll just give you I'll give you some backstory, do some world building, so that you get an idea of kind of my history with yarn. So I first tried knitting when I was about 8 years old, and that was because I watched my mum doing it and I wanted to be like my mum. I also loved the idea of sitting and doing something, because I just used to I'm not very good at sitting and not doing something. I normally have something in my hand. So it's one of the reasons why I read so much, I think, is because I'm getting that kind of constant stimulus, and that's what I am. I am a bookworm. But to actually sit and chat with people, I'm a lot more comfortable if I'm actually doing something. So I used to watch my mum knitting, and then I said, will you teach me how to knit? Now, she was a left-handed person. I'm a right-handed person. And she taught me left-handed, and I just couldn't do it. And with her crochet, she was self-taught. Excuse me. And she taught herself to crochet. I've never seen anybody that had the same action as she did. It was almost as though she was knitting. If you watched her, she almost used to do English-style knitting, but for crochet, she would throw. It was really unusual, and I have never seen anybody crochet in the way that she did. Knitting looked completely normal, but crochet looked very unusual. She used to love knitting, practically for knitting, so we had a lot of knitted garments. In fact, I still have some of the jumpers that she's knitted me. Crochet was her pleasure, though. She used to do big crochet blankets for grandchildren and for children and what have you. So my son's got quite a lot of crochet blankets that she did. And I couldn't get on with it. And I think it's partly because I had somebody who was left-handed teaching me, and I just was terrible. So I started a scarf. It was about that, and it ended up like that. And I remember throwing it in the bin. So the other thing that she did, and not as much, and with not as much pleasure, but she did used to do it, was quilting. Was patchwork and quilting in particular. Piecing over papers, which is kind of English patchwork. And I thought, I'll give that a go. And I had a knack. It just caught me. So even when crafting was deeply unfashionable, and I didn't know anybody of my age that was doing it, I would quite happily sit and patchwork and quilt. I did it for years and years and years, right up into my mid-30s. I would have firmly identified myself as somebody that read and did patchwork and quilting. That was my passions, really. Also walking and exercise, but really it was books and patchwork and quilting. So if I wasn't doing one, I was doing the other. So the kind of quilting I did, patchwork and quilting I ended up doing a city and guilds as well, to get a qualification in it, was, again, English patchwork, piecing over papers, but I did study all the other types of it. I'm an accomplished machine quilter. I'm quite comfortable doing all of the different types of quilting. I've got a very basic sewing machine, and it's amazing what you can do on a basic sewing machine. I remember taking it into class, and everybody had ones that you could program, and mine was just forward, backwards, take the foot off, and you can do free machining. So I'm quite a comfortable machinist. I've never really made clothes, and it's something that I am starting to get into. But I'm comfortable with sewing machines, and I think that's half the battle, isn't it? If you make clothes, it's about being comfortable with your machine. So I'll show you. I've got a couple of things that I've done here. I haven't brought any of my piecing over papers because they're quilts and so they're big. The other thing I've really enjoyed doing, if you're into patchwork and quilting, is a folded technique called Cathedral Windows. I absolutely love it. And it's close detail. It's normally done by hand, and it's very close detail. And I love that kind of thing. So that's my passion. So this is an example, if I can show you, of, if I show you, that's the actual cushion. It's one I made for my mum, and the colours went for her in her room. So that's it. So this is it. So it is one style, and you can create different effects by using different colours. So you can really play. So if you can see, you get these kind of circle effects. This is an old one. How many years ago? I would say this is about 12, 13 years old. And it's stood in good stead. It was in her lounge all the time. So yes, that gives you an idea. Can I show you? There we go. Does that show you how it's all created? And that's the kind of the window effect here. That's what you do, you create it. So anyway, there was that one. And here's another one that I did. Anyway, you can see this where the stitches go on the green there. Can you see the stitches? So yeah, it's really enjoyable. That's cathedral windows, and that was my other passion. So I even did, you know, full wall hangings, quite a few wall hangings of cathedral windows, because it self quilts, because you fold, it self quilts, so it's very handy. I did also really like applique, but again, I used to do it by hand. So a lot of people machine applique, and it is more sturdy, of course, and quicker. But I used to like doing it by hand, and so before my son was born, or in his first year, I did this. I'm going to have to excuse me for a moment. Can't see. Can you see it? There we go. So it was a big quilt with the alphabet on, which is kind of a standard thing to do. And it was real simple, hand quilted after that. It's got cat hairs on. Sorry about that. But yeah, so that's the kind of thing I did and thoroughly enjoyed doing. About 5-6 years ago, I used to follow a lot of blogs for quilters, and then somebody mentioned a very well-known blog. I don't think there's anybody that's into this kind of thing that doesn't know the blog of Applique 24 by Lucy. I'm sorry, I don't know her surname. She also is one of the people that runs the Yarndale Festival in Skipton in September, which I've never been able to get to, but I would love to. Anyway, I started to read her blog, and her enthusiasm for all things yarn, and also her down-to-earthness about it. Having been a quilter for years and studied quilting as well, I had gotten to the stage where, although I knew what I was talking about, it can be, I suppose, like any crafts, isn't it? There are those that believe in the mastery of the craft, and I felt like there was too much pressure on producing works of art rather than practical pieces that are going to get dirty, or, you know, like just cushions for the sake of cushions, or quilts for the sake of quilts. Especially after studying it, I feel like I was slightly burned out with it. And I remember I went up to the big quilting exhibition up in the country in Birmingham. And when I came back, I didn't pick up any quilting because I was so overwhelmed by the detail that everybody had done, and how it wasn't for the love of it now, although it was about it as an art form. And that's not where I wanted to go with it. So then to start reading a blog where somebody's talking about creating pieces, in creating crochet in particular, for the love of it and for her family to use and for the joy and what it brings to her, I just thought it was fabulous. She just really, you know, if you haven't ever read Applique 24, you have, haven't you? I mean, you have. So I actually got one of the kits, and I went onto YouTube and wrote how to crochet. And I learnt. So that was probably about 6 years ago now. And so I learnt, this was one of probably my first ever crochet, which, if you know Applique 24, it's her neat ripple. So it's her neat ripple with a very simple binding with double crochet in English terms. In the UK terms, it's full of double crochet. So it's all triples with a double crochet border. It's not handy showing these, are they? They're quite big. So there we go. So that's what there we go. I can talk about it now. So that's what I did. You're not really getting the full colours, but it's inspired by the coast, and it's her coast blanket. And I love these colours. Blues and greens, just glorious. And I really enjoyed the yarn that she used. And it's an acrylic yarn, but it's very cheap as well. And I like the way it's come up. Now, if you actually using it, I found very comfortable on my hands. But I also have found that having made big throws like this out of it, they soften up even more, and I find them really useful. So we've got quite a few of the Applique 24 blankets, but that was my first one I ever did, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So the yarn that she uses is Stylecraft DK Special, and so these drawers here are full of the yarns. So I have loads of it because it's reasonably priced. It's got such a fabulous range of colours so that you can really create it, and I have a lot of them. My ambition is to have the whole range, because the amount of times I use them, and I quite often try stuff in that yarn because I know it's comfortable, especially for crochet. I know how it feels. I know how it feels on the hooks, and so I really like it. So that was one I did. And this is another one I did. Now, a lot of people won't use black because it is tricky. You do need to do it in bright light. But I really like it. I'm quite comfortable either knitting or crocheting in black. I think I'm comfortable probably crochet. I would say I'm a more accomplished crocheter than I am a knitter. I would class myself as a beginner knitter, beginner to intermediate. But crochet, I'm pretty comfortable at it, and nothing phases me particular. Quite happily read charts or written instructions with crochet. So I did this, my own kind of colours, because I love, can you see that's a lovely green? Do you know it really doesn't come up here? That's kind of like a dark green. Can I show you? There we are. So yeah, so it's a different colours, and it's got, goes to purples and that kind of stuff. So that was another one I just did for sheer pleasure and to have in the lounge to cuddle up to my boys of a night. There we go. Let's put those down there because it's quite warm in here. So that's what I did. So I taught myself how to crochet, and then I kind of think you just end up going from one to another, don't you? So for example, at the moment, this time of year, I have my little boos out. Now I can't remember where I got this pattern from. I'm not sure if it wasn't from Love Crochet. So they're just little Annie McGurry in the round little figures. And then, yes, you sew the arms on. So the body's all done one, and then you just do 2 arms. And they're really easy. I'm really comfortable with making these. I've made a lot of these toys, different types of toys, and I like them. I find them really enjoyable. They're good fun to make. So we have our little boos that live around the house at this time of the year. This is actually something that I've just recently finished. I found it. I was going through my early drafts, as I'm going to call them, my non-finished objects, my early drafts in the bookish way, and looking at stuff that I had left over that I haven't finished for some reason I put down. And I'd all but finished this. The problem is I've not stuffed it enough. So its head on this thin neck is not stuffed enough. So it does this, if I can, it does its head to one side. You have to kind of lodge it. But there we go. Oh, it's just a little deer from a little tail. Look at that little cotton tail. That's kind of cute, isn't it? But yeah, so now, have I got the book from that? Yes, here we are. It's from that book. Crocheted Wild Animals, a collection of cuddly creatures to make from scratch by Vanessa Mooncie. So yeah, so it just comes from that. So there we go. Oh, see, that's what happens. And unfortunately, I'd have to completely, I can't take this apart. So he's a bit of a floppy one. Because it's got buttons for eyes, I wouldn't be able to give it to a child. So I don't know what I'm going to do with you. I'll put you there right at this moment, and you're going to think about things. There we go. Think about what you're going to do about your neck. I wonder if there's a way I can stuff it with needles. Anyway, let's not go down that road. So I started knitting, and the thing that interested me most about knitting was colour work and that kind of stuff. I found some brilliant Fair Isle stuff and some Fair Isle books. So this is the kind of thing I did. Again, this time of year, you can see it's got bats, and I think this was probably, Can you see? It's a mug hug, which is a couple of years old now, so it's probably distorted, but it's got bats on. There we go. Can you see that? So it's lovely. And I quite liked doing the floats. Show us your floats, I hear you cry. So that's the floats from behind. So you can see it does actually have the reverse pattern in it. Now, my mum was a real neat knitter and crocheter. And I remember when I told her I was going to start doing Fair Isle, she said, well, the only thing I would say is that you're supposed to be able to turn it inside out and the pattern is recognisable. Now, she never did colour work, but obviously she knew people that did. And I always remember her saying, you should be able to turn your work, if you're doing Fair Isle or you're doing colour work, you should be able to turn your work and see the pattern from inside, which I can't really, the sun is in the wrong place, but there we go. But I'm really pleased I did actually manage to do it. So I think it's one of those things that when somebody says it to you, it gets stuck in your head. I'm sure you've got sayings and I wonder whether it puts too much pressure on you, but I always remember her saying it. Oh, it's the goddess agreeing with me. So yes, I did spiders as well. Show us your floats. Okay, I hear you cry. Now, are the floats as good on this one? Not bad. Not bad. Not bad, actually. That's quite neat, isn't it? So yeah, so this is one of the ways I practice Fair Isle. I love Fair Isle. I absolutely love it. I love the concentration that you have to have. Again, it's close work, isn't it? And that's what I really like, is close work. Although mindless knitting and mindless crochet is enjoyable too, there are times that I want attention to detail and close work. If you know me about books, you know that I like true crime. And again, it's attention to detail. I like the full nitty gritty. I am deeply nosy. So yeah, so that's the kind of thing that I've been knitting. Have I knitted myself a garment? Yes, I've knitted myself. I chose the wrong yarn. Didn't know what I was doing. See, that's what happens, isn't it? I've probably been knitting about 3 to 4 years. I'm a more accomplished crocheter, as I said, and I knit myself like a sweater vest, like a little sleeveless pullover, and I'm quite tall. I'm 5'11", and I didn't elongate the body. So it became like a cropped one. And I used sock yarn because I wanted 4-ply, but I didn't realise how hard-wearing it was because it was a commercial sock yarn. Have I got any of it left? Is that it? Yes. Yes, this is it. Oh, now, this is where I'm going to struggle, isn't it? To show you the colours of things. There we go. Can you see that? It's got greens and blues and purples. It's coming out darker here than it is. But I didn't know this is what's wool and polyamide. It's a commercial sock, basically. It's a commercial sock colour. And I didn't know. So not suitable for a sleeveless little pullover. Learn from my mistake there. So it had no give, none, and it was cropped. But it was wonderful for teaching how to actually assemble a garment. So I was absolutely fine about it, and I've kept it because I can see my errors and I can see things I tried and things I didn't try, and it's kind of like a lesson to me to learn to actually get the right wool for the job will make it so much more of a pleasant experience, to actually understand who you're knitting it for and tailor it to that person. So it was a wonderful learning, and what I enjoyed about it was I enjoyed doing the fiddly stuff. The acres of stocking stitch was fine, and it was mindless TV knitting. But I did quite like the fiddliness of, you know, increasing and decreasing and that kind of stuff. So I actually thought, yeah, no, I could quite easily see myself knitting some more stuff. Then I went down a crochet rabbit hole for a while, but I'm now more back into knitting. So yes, so I've shown you quite a few finished objects. So my finished works, my back catalogue is how, my backlist is how I would put it. Excuse me, to give you an idea of the kind of things that I have done in the past, and that you can kind of see where I'm coming from. And over the next couple of weeks, hopefully, if this is any good, we don't know yet, do we? Still a bit scratchy, still a bit scratchy. I will be able to show you more stuff that I've done in the past, and hopefully I'll be finishing objects and so I can show you stuff. So my back catalogue will be ever increasing, my backlist, which you can ooh and ah over, and you can show me yours as well. Which sounds vaguely vulgar, but I quite like that too. What have I been working on recently? Now, I have got, there's quite a few works in progress in this drawer here. Can you see I'm looking in a drawer? And I'm not going to go into all of them now. Those are all mainly crochet in there. Let's just close that drawer. I have the one things that I'm working on, actively working on, and that I want to finish soon. Let me tell you about those. So I saw on inside number 23, you see I have gone down that rabbit hole of podcasts. They're just all so brilliant. And if you do have a favourite knitting or crochet, yarn chat, fibre fanatic podcasts that you really rate, would you leave it in the comments so that I can find them and I can start watching them, as well as come along and say hello to me so that I know people are watching me. So that would be really grand. I'd really like that. So I decided on Inside 24, she was talking about knitting, comfortable knitting, like vanilla knitting, because I've knitted socks. But I was taught on DPNs, double pointed needles. I was taught like that, so you end up with the kind of the diamond thing and you knit round. And really enjoyed it, really enjoyed doing sock knitting. I knitted a pair for me and a pair for my husband, and then I got distracted, as I do. And I've got quite a bit of sock stuff to knit, which I'm looking forward to. But watching all the podcasts, I realised that everybody did it on circular needles, that very few people knitted like I did on DPNs. Now, I think you can do, it seems to me that both is absolutely fine. But I've also started watching people knit lovely long shawls, and that definitely seems to be a much better idea to do it on a circular needle. And I've never used circular needles. This is my notions drawer, and I do have some. And I went out and I bought some Knit Pro Symphony, £5.75, you can see there. And I bought, that's an interchangeable cable. So I bought some of those to try it out, because I thought there's no point getting a massive set if you then think, actually, I prefer doing my lovely DPNs, which I have here. So there we go. So that was that. So I thought, well, I'll give them a go. And I will practice on my lovely Stylecraft on this one, actually. So this is Claret. So it's Stylecraft double knit special, and it's £1.80 for a ball, 100-gram ball. They're just great. It's 100% acrylic, which some people don't like, and I'm learning a little bit that, I'm not saying snobbery, but I am saying people do like certain kinds of wool, don't they? And sometimes your pocket doesn't always stretch to beautiful, beautiful fingering merino. That was uglily put, but yes. So I thought, well, I'll practice. I won't practice on some beautiful yarn. I will practice on yarn I know very well, which actually is a bit scratchy for this kind of stuff. But I actually knitted. I knitted a sock head hat because it was a free pattern and I could practice doing it on circular needles. So I started, and I was very much going to just do a little bit of it and then pull it out. But the husband saw me do it and said, oh, I quite like that colour, I'll have it. I should have actually just stopped it earlier because it doesn't suit him. He doesn't need the sock. He needs just a normal kind of beanie hat. I can't give it to anybody because it's got some twisted stitches in it because I was just practicing, so I wasn't worried. So it has now come to be my hat, and I would like it to be longer. So altogether, so I have been wearing it, and I'm quite happy with it. The only problem is with me and hats is the hair. Can you see it? There we are. Oh, hello. It's nice and close for you. My hair quite likes to kind of get rid of hats, but it's very nice. It's fine. It needs to have more buff for me, less buff for my husband. Technical term that for you, buff. So I started. But this is what happens, you see, and I'm sure fellow knitters and crocheters, yarn people, you are my yarn tribe. My yarn tribe. This happens to you as well. Benedict saw that I was doing something for the husband and went, "Well, I want a hat." And I was like, "Well, this is just a trial thing. It's not a proper thing. It's just a play thing." And he's like, "Well, you said you were going to do me some socks and you haven't done me some socks. And so I want you to do me a hat." So I was like, "But I want to do myself a hat." But no. So I am doing him one. And this was his chosen colour. Lilac. Originally was going to do it to him in this because he loves this kind of blue. It's gorgeous, isn't it? Actually, it's more, I would say, slightly more greeny than this is showing you, but that's probably his most favourite blue. But no, he said, actually, I want it in this colour, which is a lovely lilac. So if you know Stylecraft Special, it's wisteria. So I've been doing this, and you know, it took me. I did about 4 inches. I did about 3 inches of this in single rib, not double rib. But what I have learnt is I do really like circular needles. I am using just interchangeable. These are 3.25. I think it's 3.25 or 3. Could be 3. 3, I think. On a 40 centimetre cable. Yes, 40 centimetre cable. Do you keep packaging? I keep packaging. Yes, 3mm. There we go. That tells me. They're my 3mm ones. I keep packaging, otherwise I'll never remember it. I've seen some people keep a yarn or a knitting diary. For those people that do a lot of knitting and produce a lot of projects, I used to do it when I was a quilter, but I haven't done it for ages. Do you keep track of your stuff in that way, or do you do it on Ravelry? I've not gone down the Ravelry rabbit hole particularly. I have an account on there, but it's very quiet, and I don't know whether to do that or to use pen and paper, which is my thing normally. But yeah, so I'm doing that. I won't do such a long sock head for him either. We'll keep on trying and see how far he wants it. But that's quite good in front of the telly stuff. So that's what I'm doing for in front of the telly mindlessness. For those that have watched my vlog, you saw that I was doing this pattern. So it's a Cinder Coronella, and it's a vintage style. So this was a kind of a reimagining of a vintage piece, which I really like. I really liked it. There we are. Can you see? She is looking a bit vacant, and I'm hoping I don't look quite as vacant as she does. What she spotted on the floor, I don't know. What are you looking at, Pet? But she's feeling herself. She's wearing it beautifully. So I will look, I'm sure, as elegant. Less vacant, but just as elegant as that. And I got it from the knitter, which I quite like. So I saw that and I thought, oh, I'll do that. So I've done the front and the back. I did the back on holiday. I'm knitting it in You see, this is a worrying thing for me. I'm wondering whether I'm knitting it in completely the wrong yarn. I'm enjoying knitting it in this yarn. I like the colour, like the feel, but I wonder whether, after I've blocked it, it will be a top that all of us can wear at once. So it might elongate somewhat. It's got a kind of a lace. Can you see? It's got a lace pattern, and it's the lace pattern that attracted me. So it needs to be blocked, so that all needs to flatten. I thought that was quite nice. It's quite nice. And it will have a collar. I've done it quite long because I don't like short tops. I'm not a crop top kind of a gal. Don't mind a cropped cardigan to go over longer pieces, but I'm not really a crop top kind of a girl. But I'm worrying whether it's actually, once I've blocked it, it's going to be enormous. Could be. In which case that will be another lesson for me, to actually not knit as big as I think. Because oh, hello, there's a needle there. I'm wondering whether it's going to be huge. Look, it's going to be huge, isn't it? Anyway, you come and see me. We can both wear it together. But I will do it. I'm thoroughly enjoying the process, and I'm enjoying the feel of it. Have I shown you? There we are. That's not going to show. Cotton DK Classic by Starcraft. I didn't actually go out and buy this. I had the yarn in my stash, and I thought, oh, I'll do that. And it is DK, and the pattern's DK, and oh, it's very enjoyable, very enjoyable. But yeah, I'm currently on the sleeve, which, considering how comfortable I was knitting the pattern on the body, I've had to rip back this I don't know how many times. I just suddenly had a mental break. I just couldn't do it. But anyway, I'm doing that now. So I've got one to do, and I'm back into the pattern now. I can work out the pattern. I suddenly, do you ever have that? You suddenly go, God, I just can't read this knitting that I have in front of me. I can't work out if that's a knit or a purl or a drop stitch or what. But anyway, that's in my, I don't have any fancy, project bags. I tend to use tote bags because I have a gazillion of those. So this is where I like to spend most of my summer. Jesus Green Lido in Cambridge. So yes, that's my lovely tote bag. And the other thing, I haven't worked on this for ages, but I am working on this, and I don't want to lose this stitch. Wouldn't be the end of the world if I did, to be honest. Is this. Now this is a pattern, name I can't remember. But it's by Cherry Heart, and it was a free pattern on her website, and I think she did it as a cowl, and it's lovely. Can I just have a look to see whether I can pull up? No. Excuse me. That's me dropping the phone. Bear with. Talk amongst yourselves for 1 second, and I'll have a look. If not, I will put it up on the screen. Let me put it up on the screen. Let me see. It's funny, isn't it? You spend ages doing something. You think, oh, a spice of life. There we go. I knew it. Spice of life. So yes, that's the Spice of Life pattern, which was a free pattern on Sandra from Cherry Heart, who does have a podcast. And I'm doing this in Special DK, and so I translate it because I think she used a different kind of Starcraft. And so I've had to translate some of the colours. I have done one in a very vibrant one, which lives in our car. But this is a double bed blanket, which is enormous. But it is truly mindless crochet, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I do like the play of the colours and the play of the pattern, because you get to do fun things. You get to do like tulips and all different types. It's very enjoyable pattern. So yes, I'm enjoying that. get to do the zip stitch and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's my, if I need a bit of mindless crochet, that's what I'm using. That's what I'm doing with all those lovely colours. And that's it. That's all the knitting and stitching I'm going to show you at the time, for the moment. There we go. Still recording. Right, let me show you some stuff that I've got in recently. So we can goo together, and including a book. Now I'm going to try and include a yarn related book in every podcast because I love yarn and I love books. And if it's a subject that I'm passionate about, I will buy books about it and I will read about it. So I have various books about, oh, excuse me, itchy nose, knitting and stitching and yarn, and people that are obsessed with knitting and stitching and yarn. And I saw this one and I hadn't heard of it before, and I thought this is going to be brilliant. And this is based on a blog, I believe. Can you see? And it is the Yarn Harlot. And it is, the author is Stephanie Pearl-Mcphee. Best-selling author of At Knit's End. Do you know that? It's the Yarn Harlot, The Secret Life of a Knitter. And I gather the website, the blog and the website is Yarn Harlot. It's a lovely edition. It's a floppy paperback. She works and lives in Toronto in Canada. I wonder whether she's on YouTube. She might well be, mightn't she? So that is her book. It's not too long. It's about 200 pages. So I'm going to give this a read, and I shall come back and report back to you. And if you are a yarn person that likes to read, then hopefully I'll be able to recommend some books for you as well. So there we go, Yarn Harlot. So that's my book that I've got to show you. New yarn. Talking about Stylecraft DK. Now, I'm not sponsored by them. It does look like it, doesn't it? They can sponsor me, that would be fine. They're not going to, rest assured. They've released 6 new colours of the special DK in there. It's 100% acrylic. And myself and a friend collect all of them virtually, and we do the peg thing like Attic 24 does. As she said to us, we are just crazy crochet people, aren't we? I was like, yes we are. So one of us, when the new colours comes out, normally goes and buys a ball. And anyway, I just had to. I bought myself all 6 of the new colours. I bought them when they came out, so I bought 3 and then I bought 3. And they're very reasonable. They're as I was saying, they're £1.80 a ball. So yeah, so I bought these, which you can't see the colours because it's not the right light. There we go. That's a better. There we go. That's a better one. Now they are quite muted, so they're not really my kind of colours. I like normally quite vibrant. I'm much more of a vibrant person than I am the vintage range, but they are very nice and tonal and they will work. So I shall show you one by one. This gorgeous beast is Lapis. That's beautiful, isn't it? That is just beautiful. So we have Lapis. We have, is this, oh, yeah, that's not going to work. Buttermilk. It is that kind of, it is a pale yellowy. It is a slightly off yellow, isn't it? Lincoln. Why is that called Lincoln? It's beautiful, though. That green is gorgeous, isn't it? I would say that was a real Art Deco 1930s green. It's gorgeous. As is this, Vintage Peach. That's a lovely colour. So I like those two. Those two together are very nice. With Mushroom, which is a very light taupe, I would say. Less yellow, more grey. And the one in the middle was Blush. Is it making me? So yeah, so there we go. So those are those colours. So I've just got them in my handy crocheted basket. So yeah, so I just keep that up there. There we go. So that's the 6 new colours if you're interested in them. I'm going to have to finish this soon, aren't I? Because the sun is creeping round and destroying it. You might have seen I had a progress keeper, which I got from Beehive Yarns. And I also got another one with just a bee. So that's the other one's at a little bit of hive, a little bit of honeycomb. And then this is a beautiful one with a little bee on it. I love all things bees. So when I saw these, I don't know how well that's coming out, but there we go. I love all things bees, so I should go for that. I really am going to have to go because the light is really going, isn't it? That is the way. This was the yarn I got from Beehive Yarn, which you might not be able to see that well. It's Song to the Siren and Teal Appeal. It's Superwash Merino, Nylon and Stellina. And it's on her, which is her Barbarella base. So if you like beehive yarns, which I like, I haven't started, I've never used them. This is what I mean about fancy yarn. I haven't used them yet, but this is it. This is, which you can't really pick up, it's a kind of a green and a grey and a purple and a blue. But it's a lovely hand-dyed yarn. Feels gorgeous. The Stellina is going to be interesting to see how much stretch that actually does have. So I've got that. I should just put up there. And then the last one is Stranded Dye Works on the Oasis base, colourway Super Plum. Which, can you see that? Oh, that's picked that up beautifully. Look at that. Can I put that there? Can it pick up there? There we go. It's lost some of the tonals. So that's going to be socks. Probably. Yes, that is going to be socks, isn't it? Probably be socks for my husband. Oh, mind you, will he want sparkles? Probably. Excuse me. But this is Stranded Dye Works. And it's Sugar Plum, which that's showing a bit dark there. It's a bit lighter and it's got lovely red and blue speckles. These are my kind of colours, I have to say. This I'm going to do, this is my hat. I bought it to actually do it for me as a hat. Because I think that's quite a good colour for me. And it's interesting, isn't it? In this journey, I'm actually finding the colours I like and the colours I don't like. And what I like to wear and what I don't like to wear. So this is very much... I would wear black and put a base, put this with it or something like that. I like the deeper colours. I don't like the lighter end particularly. So yes, there we go. Some lovely yarn that I ordered. I have some other yarns, but I won't show them to you today. I shall show them next time. We will spread it out because I don't intend buying lots and lots of yarn. I've got lots of yarn here. I've got loads of stuff down here that I can show you along the way if you're interested. And now I'm going to have to leave. The sun is setting on us now. The day is ending on us now, and I've got to go and hoover. That's the excitement I've got before Benedict comes home from his play at his mates, and the husband comes home hungry for both my company and food. And good chats. So normally people do kind of talk about their life, but I feel as though I've talked so much about my life in this that I'm sure you don't need any more. And this is also nearly 50 minutes long, and it's my first podcast. I'm going to have to watch it back to see if it's okay. Will I last? I'm sure I will. This has been absolutely lovely, yarn friends. I hope it's been all right. As I say, this is my first one, and I'm sure we will become more easy with one another, and I will find a way for the yarn not to make my nose itch. Oh! And we can chat about stuff, and you can tell me about the stuff that you're doing and what your Ravelry names is. Do I do a Ravelry group? I don't know. These are questions that we will have to answer amongst ourselves in the coming weeks, hopefully. So I'm hoping that this will be either weekly or bi-weekly. I'm not sure. Fortnightly. I'm not sure I'll have enough to do weekly. Probably will be. And I do want to keep on doing my book stuff as well. So we will have to see. So for the next couple of weeks and months, we will see how this develops between you and I. We'll see how we knit together, whether the stitches are comfortable and wearable or whether it's a bit tight. or too loose. So you have to just keep coming back to see how big that top is, won't you? Yeah, that's it. All right then, lovely to see you. Hope you're well, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime.